All right, guys. So get my recording going. So welcome in anyone who's already in. Let's see. Always takes a little. I'm just waiting for YouTube to grab this so I can monitor. There we go. Monitor my feed. Now I dubbed this one the Child Collector, man, and we need to really look at this because what I'm gonna do is really focus on Professor X. Because what I'm gonna do is really focus on. I'm gonna talk about Professor X, and here's why. Like recently, in the last like week or so, me and my wife watched a couple of the X-Men movies, kind of out of sequence, but we watched. I think we watched the Dark Phoenix story first. Like we've seen these before, like previously, but sometimes it's years apart, different productions, so we don't always watch them like back to back, right? So one day we watched the Dark Phoenix, and if you watch Dark Phoenix, the question of Charles is paramount here. Like we really start talking about or looking at what he did as far as handling the X-Men. Charles gets hemmed up by both Mystique and then later Hank. Ask him about these kids. Like, what are you doing with the kids? Because remember, this thing starts off where the X-Men are going into space, right? So anyway, so it starts with X-Men going to space. So we watch that one, and then we come back and we end up watching Days of Future Past. And my wife immediately was like, man, I'm really not liking Charles because she's seeing him as potentially being this very exploitive person. And it got pretty far off. It went pretty deep in um, the Dark Phoenix series, right? I don't know how much he is like that's definitive Charles, right? But he did those things. Like it's the Dark Phoenix story for a lot was really the big introduction to the X-Men. Like this was like their big explosion. The X-Men came around. Remember, it was Stan Lee and Kirby, right? Stan Lee and Kirby who invented the X-Men. It was was it Chris Claiborne? Chris Claiborne, I think it was the guy who got it, who took over about 1975, right? And ushered in like this dude ushered in every major component that would be carrying X-Men stories now came from this era. Like this is that kind of the secondary era. And this is when the X-Men like really blew up and exploded, right? So this story becomes particularly profound because it gives a good idea of where Charles is at, and it kind of sums it up. So if you watch that, like first of all, they did a horrible, terrible job telling the Dark Phoenix story. The Dark Phoenix story is what got me. Is the reason why I'm still sitting here talking about X-Men. That's when I came into like the X-Men. Like I kind of messed with them a little bit. Like I had the first issue with Hank and all those guys, and then like the next big issue when they were bringing Aurora and all those guys in. But like the Dark Phoenix era, like to me, this was their big story. It put them on a stage with like Justice League, Super. Like they were intergalactic now. Like this was a cosmic being. They had an intergalactic part of the story on a lot of different levels, and it allowed them to really introduce some great characters. A lot of great characters that got introduced in the Dark Phoenix story. But what we do get is at the center of the Dark Phoenix story is Charles's relationship with Jean. And we got to focus on this. Like, we just have to focus on his relationship with Jean Grey because it's so meaningful in setting the example of who he was and what he was doing, right? What Charles was doing, first of all, there's a couple of levels what Charles did. First, his personal interactions with Jean, the stuff he was doing to her, putting in mental blocks, right? He wasn't healing her. He was making her easy to deal with, right? I mean, that's really what she was. Everybody knew how powerful, like he saw immediately how powerful Jean could be. She's one of the most powerful. But instead of like, look, Sometimes that truth hurts. Sometimes that truth hurts, but it's the best medicine for you, right? So if I look at how he dealt with Jean during, during her early childhood, she's a child when she's coming here. She's already massively powerful, but putting in all these blocks to make her forget things, you were making a lot of executive decisions, right? That you probably just didn't again, you always believe this about yourself. You never have a lack of faith in yourself, Charles Xavier, right? So looking at what you were doing with Gene, and then from a bigger standpoint, what you were repeatedly doing with the team, right? Now, this becomes an interesting part because you were increasingly putting the X-Men in harm's way. You sent the kids into space, right? Like think about how ridiculous this concept is, right? The concept is that you sent a bunch of young people into space on a rescue mission to save some people who were fully adults who were trained to actually go into space. If it's fucked up there for them, you probably I'm kind of like stepping back. Like, why are we even sending them in the first place, right? Clearly, you guys should the problem is that you guys shouldn't be running space missions, right? So we've never been into space, and now all of a sudden I'm in space. You don't know how any of these people react. Like, before you send astronauts into space, there's a whole psychological profile. There's all this mental testing that you do before you send a human being up into space. Not Charles Xavier. Not Charles Xavier. I'm going to take all these kids, most of them who have some type of trauma in their lives. Like, you guys are the trauma team, right? Like, there's a point where the X-Men are the trauma team, right? Like, really, there's not a likelihood that any of you guys just woke up and you're well adapted with your mutant powers and you're like, man, I should join Professor X's school for the completely different. You didn't do that. So all these kids have some trauma. I'm going to see if I can pull up an image of this because I'm telling you, this is really crazy ass thinking. And this isn't the thinking of a rational person. This isn't like a cautious person. This is the person who's completely off the hook in his thinking. Like, okay, I'm gonna send these kids up into space, right? I'm gonna send children up into space. And the whole thing about it is like when you had a bunch of astronauts who did all this training to go up into space, one of the first things that they got to accept is that look, it's a greater probability that you don't make it back, right? You have to accept that. I accept that as an astronaut going into space, right? I sign I'm taking on a daily, like pilots do this stuff all the time, right? Pilots do this stuff all the time. Pilots go into space or pilots go up. Look, this we hope it's not your last mission, but every time one of these soldiers straps up, right, he's flying a bombing mission, he's getting into an astronaut, right, he's getting to a spaceship. All these things that could be your last time. That's it. That's a part of the job that these adults, these fully consenting adults sign up for, right? So if they get up there and something goes sideways, there's not supposed to be somebody you call, right? The reason that you don't have anybody to call, the only people you could call that you should be able to call is another freaking team of astronauts, right? We can all agree that calling a bunch of untrained children is utterly ridiculous. So first off, I don't think that our government would actually do that. But for Charles to do, this wasn't a conversation. This was yeah, what's going on? Oh yeah, okay, all right. So something's wrong up in space. Okay, don't worry. Hey, get the plane going and get your uniforms on. No discussions about this, right? Like I've never shown you that I had an interest to go into space, or I'm even willing to do this. But what I personally care as an X-Men, it doesn't matter, right? I'm sending children into space. I'm sending children to rescue adults. That says a lot right there. I'm sending children. When the last time something happened at your house and you called your kid to come save you, right? So it's backwards in how he's thinking. Like, we don't need any training. Our lives are expendable for their lives. And he never even, when it goes down and Gene's dead or they think Gene's dead or whatever, like, like you didn't even anticipate this, like you didn't even have the mindset that I'm sending these kids out here, and every time I'm sending them out you could die. Like we don't, and I get it, we don't see a lot of deaths in the comic book world because look, comic book characters are valuable, man. You don't want to be getting all this marketing and I got to go back and reinvent you later, right? So this is where Charles is operating. Like the based on the mission to send children, untrained children, into space is already starting to tell me a lot about who you are. And you see, Mystique in that scene, she's pushing back on it hard, right? She's pushing back on it hard. Right off the bat, she's like, this is crazy, like this is crazy. And even one of them says, so we're running space missions now, right? And he doesn't, like, the fact that he doesn't bat an eye. And again, like years later, I remember reading one of the comic books, like, and Storm kind of saying that to him, like, you're never the one that's going out here. It's always somebody else. You're always so eager to allow someone else to get harmed, to be in harm's way. And he was. And like this is compelling because like at the time, okay, when the original X-Men started, when you go back to that first class, Charles was still a relatively young man. He was a full-on adult. Like they were teenagers, right? Because here's the thing, like, how come you not recruit any adult mutants, right? If you're an adult mutant, right? Well, I guess you have Magneto, right? Who's also an adult. This is your peer, right? We see in the movie where you guys run up on Logan and he's like, yeah, get bent. But I would have thought it would just be like, first of all, adult mutants who haven't had any training, they also need training. And these guys are more likely to be able to make good, sound decisions and not come from a place of trauma. So I get, and we see how he has the school where you have the school where, look, if your powers aren't any good, right, you just go to school here, right? If you have whack powers, you just go to school here. But when he saw Colossus, you're clearly going to be an X-Men, right? You're clearly going to be an X-Men because you are an offensive weapon, right? So we get how he was looking at it. And I'm just simply saying, like, why wouldn't you have adults for this, man? This is nonsense that you're using children and you sending children up into space. No parental consent. And that's the other thing. Your parents aren't around. Like, the parents aren't around. I'm telling you guys, this is worse than AAU basketball. Like, at least in AAU, they want you to get somewhere, right? They're trying to get paid too, but they want you to get somewhere, right? With the X-Men, he doesn't care. You're not going to league. You're not doing any of that stuff. You have to be used by him. Now, the whole idea is that he is benevolent, but I think he thinks in the bigger terms, right? He's willing to sacrifice mutants for human lives in this belief that somehow they'll see you as valuable. And like, why? Okay, I was about to say something dumb because I know we have the worlds are knocked out. I was gonna say, why don't you just call the Avengers for all that stuff? But you can't, right? Because the Avengers don't exist in this world, which is totally good, right? It's actually better. So Charles comes off as this very wise teacher. Okay, so you're this father figure who never had any children, right? Like, we remember, like, we know Charles is intelligent. I don't know if Charles was wise before he starts this, right? This is like Phil Jackson in his first coaching job. You weren't wise yet. You were intelligent. Wisdom is the years that come along with it. So going back to see him in X-Men First Class, it takes away that ability to see you as wise, because I'm like, yeah, we just saw you at the bar drinking and dropping lines on this chick. Like, we knew what you were getting ready to do, right? We knew what you were all about at that point as well, right? So he comes off, they often show him as being this wise, architect who stays on top, who has all this wisdom. And I don't know, from the beginning, we see you off into some very, very, like, it's shaky, right? You're definitely shaky, right? Is he truly benevolent? So he's this wise teacher. He's his father figure, although he never had no children. So I don't always see his father figure. And you're the founder of the X-Men. You're just another rich guy who had the money to do this, so you did it, and that gives you some kind of control of everyone. You say you dedicate your life to protecting mutants and pursuing peaceful coexistence, right? Like, here's the thing, man. Like, because this is the real debate. Is it easier to put the X-Men at risk on BS missions like this to get humans to change their mind, Or is it easier for the most powerful telepath in the world to just change people's minds on mutants? I'm just asking, like, what would evolution actually say if I have the ability, like I use all my other abilities, but I won't use this one, and you use it like you'll use your mental abilities on fucking mutants like it ain't nothing, man. You have no hesitation going into a mutant's brain, and so this is mutant on mutant crime at the highest level. When you could put on Cerebro and find, and take 25% of all adults and say, you know what, I'm not really afraid of mutants, man. We need to stop tripping and start giving these mutants a chance. And that would change the entire world, right? Those people just speaking and being louder. But like, come on, there's a lot of stuff that you could have done instead of the nonsense that you were doing. Like, yeah, let's get into this spill. Like you didn't even know if your ship could go into space. You never even tested the vehicle for capacity. Now, granted, we're trusting Hank's design and it proved to be right, but it's never been up in space. I've never been up in space. We have never been up in space. So we're not ready for whatever things would happen. It's like, 'cause I'm thinking like if I'm on the X-Men and you're like, okay, we got a submarine mission. Everybody suit up. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going. Because I don't even care what my powers is. My power could be perfectly suited for whatever the mission is. But if the mission requires me to get into a space, to a submarine, I'm not going, right? It's not a if, it's a I can't. So just to be like, yeah, we going into space, no discussions about it, nothing, right? No feedback. Hey, this is how my powers work. Something's gonna happen if we go up in space with this ability. You're not even asking those questions. So this is how I gotta look at him. So you're not, I can't really see you're a protector when I actually see you live and direct putting these X-Men children in the harm. And it's funny, like I just got through watching man, what was that? Gifted, right? Like Gifted is one of those like all X-Men world spin-offs, right? And who do they have in there, man? They have Polaris is in it, like for sure. I think what they call her, Blink. It's a handful, man, like Eclipse, like I know that, and there's a couple of other guys in there that are notable, right? Like no majors, but guys who are well known in the X-Men community, right? And they have this whole like spin-off, and the parent, like there's a family there. It's kind of built around this family. And they have a brother and sister mutant. Anyway, like they're all at war, they're the mutant underground, and they're gonna go out on a mission. And the mom's like, no, this is my kid. You're not sending my kid out to just go out and fight. And see, this is where like Charles starts getting mad sketchy, man, because that's the whole thing. You look for kids that have been rejected by the family. Sounds like a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, right? But there's a specific vulnerability, right? That in itself represents a specific type of vulnerability, a specific kind of like backdoor into being trusted by them. The fact that they were rejected by their families and you already know that, right? That's what manipulators key on. They key on stuff like this, right? And you have mental abilities, so you can make it even worse. Like you did with Jean. Like think about what you did with Jean. Like what you did with Jean was made her think her father was dead. At the end of the day, you said I believe you let her think her father was dead. You didn't say he just gave her up, right? And it was wrong. Like however we look at, here's the thing, man. Okay, the debate around Gene, man, it's a harsh one, man. It's a harsh one, man. Right? It's a harsh one because you did kill my wife, man. Like I'm not joking. Like you did kill my wife, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Like this is what the husband's thinking. Like think about this. Like you're Gene. I don't know how old you were. I don't know how old you are at this point, right? But maybe 8. Maybe you're like 8 years old or something like this. I don't know. I don't know how old Gene is at this point, right? I'm gonna assume you're about 8 years old. And we get, so we're rolling as a family, and you end up doing something, and it kills your mom. Kills your mother. I'm a married man. I'm married to this lady, right? I'm married to this lady, and you know what? Here's the thing, Gene. I've known her a whole lot longer than I knew you, right? Like this is a real messed up. It's a real messed up thing because, granted, your father, you love your daughter, but man, your daughter just murked your wife, and it seems like it was intentional. Like, I don't know if she had projected out, I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna. I don't know if she had done the math on that the car is gonna come. I don't know, but it seems like you intentionally put her to sleep behind the wheel of a car, all because she wouldn't let you mess with the radio. That's a problem. Like, that's a problem. And with any family group, we're gonna talk this one out, man. This is a long, hard conversation. For a father, like, okay, how do I even get to the point that I can have this conversation with you? Like, this is the first part. I understand. This is the first part. I'm talking to young Jean sitting in the backseat. I understand, sweetheart. I understand. Let me try to talk to her, right? I'm really trying to talk to Jean, young Jean, to make you understand, okay? To give you some type of understanding on, man, we might not be able to kick it after this, right? I understand I'm your father and I do love you, but I'm being honest right now. I'm being honest. I'm speaking to you, young Gene, right? And I'm not going to do it in the Charles Xavier way. I'm going to actually talk to you as the father in the car with her, right? I don't know if you knew this, but me and your mom's was like that, right? You see that? Me and your mom's was like that, right? As pretty as you are and all that, that came from her. Like, imagine the way Scott would feel about you, right? That's how I felt about her. Okay. I need that to sit, and like, you're telepathic. Like, come on. Don't tell me like you're telepathic and also mentally blind at the same time. You don't see anything. You never look at anyone else's viewpoint. And I'm saying this is at the point where Jean comes back and she doesn't kill him. Right? How's he die? Yeah, the aliens come and kill him. But whatever, right? You have zero empathy. You have zero empathy. Like, you killed my wife, right? So, okay, I really liked her enough that I loved her and I wanted to make a human being with her. I didn't want to make a mutant, but that's what we got. And we were cool with this. I don't know why you just couldn't keep your mental hands off the radio, man. And like, let's be honest, man. Like, look, Gene, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care what. When you are behind the wheel of the car, you get to determine what's on the radio. That's it. That's the rule. I don't give a damn if you got telekinesis or not. Like, keep your hands off my radio. Period. I will pull this car over and put my radio back on. When we're in your car, right? We'll listen to what you want to listen to. This isn't our car, right? This is my car. So this is what I got to tell Gene. Like, you were in the wrong all the way through this, Gene. There's not one. Like, first of all, how you sitting in the back? You know what? You know why the radio's in the front? You ever thought about why the radio's in the front? Why is the controls for the radios not in the back? Right? In the right car it is, right? There's two types of cars. There's two types of cars in the world. There's cars where everything is set up for the person in the front, right? And then there's cars where everything is set up for the people in the back, okay? That's a whole different kind of car and a whole different type of tax bracket. And we ain't in that tax bracket, right? If you don't see controls for the radio in the back of the car, where you're sitting at, that means you're not supposed to control the radio. This is by circumstances. Telekinesis notwithstanding, okay? So this is what got it all messed up in the first place, Gene. Is like, you starting off showing no empathy. So you can't, like, what got you so mad? You got so mad that you couldn't listen to the radio, that you lashed out and it killed your mom. You might be Damien. Right? You might be a young Damien Thorne. I don't know at this point because you already got a couple of bodies, that being your mom. So you kill your mom, your dad loses it and hides out, and then you come back 10 years later and you mad at him? Like, I think this whole thing, and this is where I'm like, Charles, maybe you should have just let her deal with whatever she had to deal with. That's what actual healing is, right? Because this chick is you out of pocket all the time. Like, they call you the emotional center of the X-Men, like you're an emotional black hole, right? And here's the thing, to even compound it, when you got the Dark Phoenix power, you did go crazy. Like, you did. Like, let me get Dark Phoenix power, I'm be hooking everybody up. Like, everybody would feel that I got Dark Phoenix power because the world would be so nice. I'm not joking to you guys, man. I would paint the world nice, man. I would use every bit of my Dark Phoenix abilities. Like, yeah, I would be out flying around and I'd probably be burning up asteroids and things of that nature. But like, it's not a bone in me. She's supposed to be so gentle, but when you got this power, you really went sideways. Now, I like to believe that this was more on Charles, but okay, but this is what it is. So Charles, again, you do go after vulnerable children that are rejected by their families or feared by society, right? And you offer safety, education, guidance, and a sense of community. So at a first glance, man, this is looking good. I mean, I go, right? All of a sudden, I go, right? But then you get there, and he's got everything, man. He's got knowledge, right? He's got resources. He's got authority. He has social. He knows president, right? And he has telepathic abilities, right? So he's got everything. So the mutants who enter his realm, like imagine how you feel, right? This is a really important ethics. Can individuals make independent choices when the person providing their safety is directing the course of their lives? Am I making good choices, or am I doing what you're telling me to do because I didn't have any other resources, right? Like Gene had no place else to go. A lot of them, and again, it's great, but like you're picking this out, and I'm not just gonna pick on Charles with this. I'm not just gonna stay on Professor X with this. I'm gonna delve deeper into this like child collector. So this is kind of what he is, right? Then we get into the next part, which is like, okay, now they're soldiers. All right, now, guys, we need to talk about child soldiers because Charles Xavier isn't the only one who's turned children into soldiers, and we typically say that's bad. Typically, if you hear a story about a child, if you hear a word about a child and a soldier at the same time, most of the time it doesn't really lead, unless you see child posing with a soldier at training facility, whatever. His brother's a soldier, his pop's a soldier. A girl greets her dad coming home from deployment. Those are all great stories, right? A child and a soldier story are great. Soldier and dog stories are great, right? When they're coming home and they're greeting their family. But any other use of child and soldier, it gets to be bad. There's a lot of destabilized countries on the continent of Africa where child soldiers are a thing, right? Go down to like parts of Brazil, like child soldiers are a real thing. And this is what he's doing. Typically, we say we don't want kids fighting wars. So when you go to X-Men, you're getting combat training, right? You're learning tactical operations. You're participating in dangerous missions, and you face enemies who are capable and willing to kill you. They're not just willing to kill you, which is one thing. They're also capable of killing you. You're facing very dangerous opponents every single time. So within this kind of fiction, all this stuff is presented as being very heroic. All that Charles is doing is this considered very, very heroic, despite the fact that you're repeatedly putting children's lives at risk. That's what is going on here. These are children, right? All of them. You know, when you get Logan, he's an adult, but yeah, at this point, that's why they all age out. Once they become adults, they all leave. You got a bunch of children here. Now, yeah, here's the thing. Now, here's also the thing. Professor X, man. Here's the thing with Charles. Take the parent out. Most of the time, parents going, fucking Cyclops' dad was in like space or something, right? Think about it. Jean's dad didn't want her around. Cyclops' pops or Alex's pops was like in space or something like that. I think Aurora's parents were both deceased at this time, right? By the time she gets to X-Men, I think her parents are both deceased. I don't know anything about Hank. We don't know what Hank's life was before. It seems like it was pretty stable, right? So all the parents are gone. There's no parents around, right? And you come in as, hey, yeah, I'm your teacher, I'm your principal, I'm your mentor, I'm your guardian, I'm your employer, I'm the commander, and I'm your counsel, I'm your pusher man. You ever heard that before? I'm your mother, I'm your daddy, I'm that in the caddy. He is all that stuff. He's the dude in the caddy, man. I'm everything that you need. Everything. If somebody tells you that they're everything you need, that's real PIMP communicational skills right there is what they're doing. He is everything to these impressionable children who've gone through trauma. I mean, I'm your counselor. Like we've seen it, man. Like a counselor, that's enough, man. I'm also your guardian. I make legal decisions about you. I'm your teacher. I influence what you learn. So he's working the full gamut on them, right? This is way, way, way too much authority over one child's life. And he could be on the sneak tip, like slowly manipulating people too. We also don't know that, right? Like all these young, impressionable children who are all seeking your approval, right? And then there's telepathy. You can influence minds directly. Why you don't just do that to the U.S. government, the guy who made Sentinels? If you just went to the guy who made Sentinels, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be more loving and love people, and I'm going to use my mind for that. If you had done that, we wouldn't have to go back. We wouldn't have to go from the future back into the past to try to change the future. We wouldn't have done that if you had just said, "Oh, please, I love mutants. I can't wait to have more mutants around, and mutants are good." If you had just done that with Cerebro, we wouldn't be having these problems. But we do have these problems. And the problem is that you use these skills on mutants all the time. We see it. We see it wide on display. So it's not like we can really just, even question like, why don't you use your powers? You won't use them on the people who are actually your enemies, but you will use it on these mutants that you want to control extensively, like you did Jean, right? And she was pissed off about it. And then you have the dream, right? And this is kind of the interesting part because like I don't even know if I want to say this. I don't know if I want to say this. I don't know if I want to get in this part, but I'm going to do it anyway because screw it, right? This series was developed at the height of civil rights movement. So a lot of people looked at this series as a reference point to that, right? Like where Professor X kind of represented Dr. King, right? They were looking to integrate to show they be a part of the culture and contribute, right? And all those things. And then you had Malcolm or Magneto, right? Who's like Malcolm, who's like, yeah, fuck that. Somebody put their hands on you, make sure they'll never put their hands on nobody else. That's what Malcolm said. This was never an advocate for violence, but you would think if you're a mutant and you guys have all these powers that, yeah, maybe I do tend to leave people alone, right? So when we look at that, when we talk about him and Magneto and that comparison, now I think Stanley has come out and said that no, that wasn't what he was doing. He's denied it, right? I believe he's openly denied that there was any association with the X-Men and the Civil Rights Movement. This is not Malcolm X. This is not Martin Luther King, right? However, you still let it be known that what Charles was doing was called the dream. Like literally, right? That's what you called it, the dream. So you could say it wasn't based on that, and it's just coincidental that Martin Luther King gave a very famous speech in which he started with "I have a dream," the "I have a dream" speech, and you have the dream. Okay, so yeah, they're not the same, so we don't get that. Okay, so this is how we really got to look at him in a lot of ways. Like this dude is mad manipulative, man. Like he's mad. Like even if you watch when the X-Men, because remember, man, like it's really suspect that like Jean's life is on the line. Your girlfriend is the queen of the empire or the empress of the empire that's gonna put her down, and you don't even try to like hit it really good to get her to change her mind. You could just be like, we're not gonna do that. Or a couple like Jean died. Okay, that's actually not how Gene died. So I'm gonna pull that back on him. But I'm just saying that whole thing, and maybe like Gene had to go. I'm just lying. Like that was kind of the beautifully written part of Dark Phoenix was that you had to go, man. I love Gene too, man. I did. I love Gene too. I love Phoenix, and I even thought Dark Phoenix was like the illest, the craziest villain you could get. That was the best villain I felt like I had seen at that time, and still one of my favorites to watch of all time. But Gene had to go. Gene had to go. Like, because what I took away from that is you were corrupted by the power. Like, the power doesn't necessarily make you do this. You were corrupted. Like, the power is all encompassing, it creates and it destroys. You only chose destruction out of that. And that's where you got your joy from. Why that was the case, I can't speak on it. I don't really know. But I could watch what you were actually doing, Gene. So if I look at it from that point, like, yeah, Jean had to go. She ultimately had to go. And here's the thing. So Professor X, you got a long history of this. You have a long history of recruiting children and like you putting their lives at risk repeatedly. And there's been a share X-Men. Like X-Men's got a lot of tragedies, man. It's a lot of sad that happened in connection with the X-Men. And I don't know if necessarily you should be the one that gets trusted. I don't know if I like it looks all nice, the Xavier's Institute, Jean Grey's Institute now. But man, you have a long track record of some shady behavior, right? But here's the thing. He's not the only one. He's not the only one, right? It's not the only one. There's actually a problematic cabal of various, as I like to call them, child collectors. Are they mentors? Are they saviors? Or are they exploiters, right? And so we have to talk about each one of these, right? Because they're all kind of doing the same thing on different scale. As I just talked about Professor X, but then I got to move on to Bruce Wayne. Like Bruce Wayne, you collect trauma children. You do like I've always kind of thought that like if I go down there and you're Batman, and you're like, okay, we're about to get a team. It's about to be me and you. I'm Batman, and you're gonna be Robin, right? And you're the fourth Robin. And I'm like, if you tell me I'm the fourth Robin, the first thing I ask is, what happened to the first three? What happened to the first three? What happened to the last guy that was Robin? Then now that you have an opening for Robin, okay? Because that's the whole thing. You clearly it's a dangerous position, and why wouldn't you take a seasoned adult to have your back? Why are you like? I can understand you training a child. First of all, I can see you taking in a child. I can see you training them, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're necessarily going to be a crime fighter. They're like no matter who you adopt, they're always crime fighters, and that's the thing. Like whereas a lot of times these kids really need like just help. Like you think about like when it was Dick Grayson, like Dick had watched both his parents die. Remember, his parents were circus performers. Like Dick had just seen both of his parents die in one fell shot, and I don't remember him getting a lot of counseling over that. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. You didn't where a normal person would say like, yeah, these kids probably need a lot of counseling. Not Bruce, not you. You're not saying that, huh? You're not considered. I think they showed some stuff down the road, but like it's mad questionable, right? And you are training these kids to be vigilantes. All right. Now the next one, of course, is Niles Calder, which is the Doom Squad, right? Now I've been thoroughly into the Doom Squad, and like, man, this is an Insidious like really, he's an Insidious character, especially when you start talking to Robot, right? Because apparently he did this to you, man. Like he chose to make Robot into this. Robot didn't have anything to do with this conversation. It wasn't a conversation between him and Niles, like, oh, I need to try to save your life. Like he spins it as I was trying to save your life. But it's like, man, this ain't really like he doesn't even have the sense of feeling, right? He can't feel nothing that he touches even matters to him. He's not like Victor, right? In that regard, where you still have feeling, like it still matters if you touch something, right? It's gonna matter to you. He doesn't even have that. I would think a big part of that would be, emotionally, it would be massively destabilizing, right? Like this is what like you need to put me in like a good body, right? I'm kind of in an old school. It's kind of raggedy. My hands stop working. At times, I'm just trapped in here. Like this is not a good situation, man. It's not a good look. It's not. It can't be any kind of happiness there. So like, this is what we got. So all of them, man. Like in the Doom, like what you're doing with like Jane, like Jane, like you're not even trying to get Jane help. Am I wrong in that? Am I wrong in that, guys? Am I missing something? Like was like Jane is literally like maybe Jane can be helped. Maybe because you have, I don't know, an infinite amount of personalities in your noodle. Maybe you can't be helped. But I don't even think he's trying. And like a lot of the people in the Doom Squad, Doom Patrol, they all have some deep psychological scars, man. Like these people are all severely damaged. And you know this. You know this, but you're not gonna do anything about it. You're just gonna keep on doing that thing, right? And they even recognize, like, at least in this one, every single one of them calls you an asshole. Like every single one of them, like, knows exactly who you are. And then we go over to Hargreaves over at the Umbrella Academy. Exact same scenario. Exact same scenario. Like he's doing exactly the same thing. He's literally Professor X to me on a lower level, right? Like more of a solo, but like more definitive. Like you're on a smaller scale. Their mentorship is never about teaching. It's never about, hey, it's about teaching you how to fight. It's about teaching you how to fight for stuff I want you to fight about. So of the four of them here, I don't know which one is the worst, man. Yeah, I don't know which one of them is worse, man. They're all pretty terrible. Like you get something different out of each one of them, and I don't know if it's good enough. It definitely doesn't justify what you have to go through. Like you're gonna go through so much shit, like with these guys, right? And Professor X, man, I don't know who's worse. They're all pretty terrible. Like I think Bruce is probably I can move Bruce to the best one of these guys. Like I don't, I don't feel like I have to, he offers family, but he exposes children to violence. Yeah, it's 100% truthful about Bruce. And Jason Todd, and a lot of them didn't make it, man. A lot of these Robins didn't grow up, man. So that's the whole thing. So maybe some of these guys are better, but it's really hard to build an argument because they're all like child collectors, man. Every single one of them is a child collector, man. We just see it at the highest level, so people excuse it. But yeah, these guys, man, you really, really, really got to keep an eye on your children, man. You really do, man. And look, if I got a mutant kid, I'm just gonna be like, look, I love you, no matter what. Don't worry about it. Stop lasering down the house. But we'll be all right later. We're gonna use your powers to make some money. We'll be all right with it, right? That's kind of where I'm looking at. So we see an archetype. Like this is a character type that does exist. We see it repeatedly, right? We've seen people use this strategy to build vast armies for themselves. At least Batman puts himself on the front line too. At least Batman's out there fighting with you. All the rest of the guys, like they're sending you guys out to do this damage, but they're not taking any blows themselves. So that's a big thing we look at these characters here. But it gets better, man. This is like when you order a knife on TV and they say, but there's still more, right? And the still more is let's look at like even in mythology and other storytellings, we have that kind of authority figure who sacrifices others for themselves. This is an architect. It comes from mythology. You're wise, you're powerful, you're paternal, even fatherly. You guide, you shape, and you sacrifice. Like Odin has a long, extensive track record as a wise father who sacrifices others for the greater good. Like he's done that repeatedly. He sees a future that few people can comprehend. So he does understand that. He makes decisions that only he fully understands because he has the knowledge and he gathers the extraordinary for inevitable war. That's what he's doing. He's building for Ragnarok, right? His wisdom is built on sacrifice, secrets, and loss. So we kind of see him like as he's gathering everybody for Ragnarok, like you got to fight in this war no matter what. So we can kind of appreciate that. Now Merlin, he's kind of the same thing. Like you see his proteges, obviously King Arthur, but also Morgan Le Fay, who would try to kill him multiple times after her training. But he's also the one who finds people with great potential. He teaches them his ways. He guides them from behind the scenes. He never wants to be out in front. He shapes the path, sometimes without their consent. Like that's what he's doing. And yeah, he's a beast out there. Like in this realm right here, of the influencers, yeah, he's strong. He had, like I said, he had two legendary figures up under him, and then the last one is Zeus, and Zeus kind of does the same thing. Like you're this ultimate authority figure, so because your rulership brings order and stability. All your decisions that are made by you are typically done in a good light, right? But all these guys will force their children. Like Athena is significant because a lot of times she or reduces him or dismisses not dismisses him, but she counters him because she always counters with logic. So that's kind of it. You see like this group of men who will typically kind of try to get you guys to do all the heavy lifting, right? Like this is it right here, the child collectors. And I'll just kind of profile on Charles Xavier, who I think just is absolutely a headliner. So I'm gonna dip off for a little bit, guys. I got a little more research I'm gonna do, and then I'll be back. Oh man, I'm gonna do some more. Would you let them in your house? So if you're into those, Come back with me. I'll probably be on in about an hour. So it's 1 o'clock right now. Let's say 2:30 Central Time. I'll be back on.